All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about when I first started on my financial journey and how I forgot that there are steps. If you're returning, go ahead and hit that like button and share this information out. Leave me a nice comment in the comment section. Helps out with the algorithm. And then also, if you're on YouTube, make sure you go to the YouTube Pennywise channel. That's WYSE for Wise channel, and subscribe if you haven't. And you can also look over some of the other videos that I have there as well. But yeah, so I don't know, something about hitting 30. There's something about hitting 30 that you, I don't know, it just, for me, I can say for me, hitting 30, I felt like I was behind. I felt like I was behind in finances. I felt like I was behind. Well, I was in the military at the time, so um I was okay there, I guess. Granted, I went to the military after going to college, so I mean, I guess I was a little behind just because most of the people that were my age were ranked higher than me by probably, I'd say, 2 or 3 grades. They had more time in service. A lot of those guys came in when they were 18, 19, 20, and I didn't go in until I was 28. I was in the Marine Corps. I didn't go in until I was 28, and so I was, by the time I hit 30, I had been in for about 2 years at that point. And, I was just trying to figure things out. I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but I was definitely trying to figure some things out. Um, Now, I had a family at the time, so money was going out the door. I got divorced a year or two later, so that happened. But I was just trying to figure things out because what I did not want to do was I did not want to be that person that was old without anything, or that person who had used every last dime that they had brought in as far as income was concerned. And you see all these people retire because you come in the military, you'll do a lot of retirement ceremonies and things. And these are people who've been in for like 20 years, right? And I knew that me doing 20 years in the military would be a little harder because I would definitely be a little older. A lot of people will get out of the military after 20 years and they're only 40 years old. Okay. And at the time, I'm looking at my situation like, if even if I give them 10 more years, I'll be 40 in 10 more years at the time. And I'm only like 2 years in. So I'd have to do 8 more of those bad babies. And I don't know if anybody has been in the military, but it can be a little hard on the body. So you really don't think about yourself being in your 40s and going on 50, still in the military. So there are people out there that do it. There were people in there that were that old, believe it or not. Now, granted, they don't have to do all of the things that we as young Marines had to do. So it's not as much stress on the body. They can make their way around because they're ranked higher, a lot higher, and they're in different places. But I can tell you that most of them will tell you that it's still difficult on the body, and they really have to um, watch out for injuries and things of that nature when they do have to get out and do some stuff. And we have these tests where we take twice a year, these physical fitness tests that we take. And so you have to keep your body in shape enough to be able to pass those tests. Um, so I don't know. At 30, I felt really behind. And so I felt like, I got to play catch up. Got to play catch up. Well, shortly after my 30th, I'd say probably by my 31st, 32nd um, year, I ended up getting a divorce or ended up separating from my spouse and my family. And we had a lot of issues and it just didn't work out. So I had to go my own separate way, and I had to start all over. Now, when I started over at the time, my sister was around. So me and my sister were actually roommates for about a year or so, maybe like a year or two after my separation. And that did help a lot because I wasn't totally by myself. I did have the support of some family. And then also, as well, she was also working as well. So we were able to help one another, between me, my sister, and my father, to financially get things situated. And well, after that, I still feeling like I was behind. I basically was looking for a way to financially get myself together because, again, like I'm on my own at this point and I'm trying to figure things out. I got out of the military after getting hurt. See, I told you, you get hurt, you can get hurt. I hurt my back really badly, and so I ended up getting medically discharged. And so then I had a job. I had actually two jobs. I was working even when I was in the military. I was working at Domino's part time on base, and then I was also doing like Uber and Lyft and things like that on the weekends as well. Because honestly, because I was freaking out about not having enough money to do what I needed to do. So I continued working those jobs. Wow. Once I got out, so I wasn't too like worried because I knew I could just up my hours and still work on base. I knew I could just up my hours with my ride share programs, and that I could make ends meet. And honestly, it wasn't spending any less time or any more time, should I say, than the military was taking up because we were working 12-hour days most of the time anyway. So I did that, but what I did not see was me accumulating that much money. Granted, yes, I had enough. I paid my bills. I was paying a car note at the time, my insurance, of course. A lot of fuel was going into my ride. But I started saving. But what I did was I found this company. It was a peer-to-peer lending company, and I actually still use that company to this day. I still invest into that company. And they pay interest. They pay me dividends on my money, or interest on my money, and they actually pay out every month. So that was one thing. I had to do a lot of educating myself, reading and researching, trying to figure out how is it that I could put my money to use to work without me actually having to go to work with it. And so I found this program, and I remember I had like $400. And so I took my $400 and I put it into this peer-to-peer lending. Now I didn't know if it was going to work, but I was just praying to God that it would. So I took a shot at it, right? And so when I did that, well, I think within my first 60 days or so, it started paying me out the interest. But during that time, I was just thinking about all these ways and, that I could continue to just pour money into that account. And I did do that. I poured money into that account as much as often as I could while still paying my bills and things. Now, it didn't really give me much like not savings, but it didn't give me much like spending money and money to go out and play with. But that was because I was kind of focused. But what I didn't realize was that I did not set aside any money for emergencies. I was taking all the extra money that I had in increments of 25 or better, and I was pouring into this account. Well, yes, it was paying us interest. It was paying me interest, but yeah, the interest rates that it was paying was only probably about 6% a month at the time. It was about 6% a month, which is not bad. However, it's not enough to, or at the time, because I started out with such a small amount of money, a couple $100, 6% of 400, $500 is really not that much, right? So like when my alternator went out on my car, I hadn't paid enough money to I don't say I hadn't paid enough money. I hadn't made enough money, or I couldn't pull enough money. It wasn't liquidable how I had my portfolio set up, it wasn't liquidable at the time to be able to pull that money. So when I had to get a starter also for my car, I didn't have that cash on hand. So what I had to do was I had to go over and I had to borrow some money from a friend of mine. And I borrowed the money from a friend of mine, and a friend of mine that I knew was financially good with money. And we had been to college together and all types of stuff. So we kind of had a relationship with one another where we could trade money back and forth when necessary. So I called that friend up and said, hey, I need XYZ. Can I borrow this? It's for a part for my car, and I'll have it back to you by the end of the week. I've always been that person, like, if I had to borrow some money, I always try to tell you, like, within 5 days, because I know within my mind that I'm going to get it back to you within like 2. But just in case something happens, that little padding is there, right? So of course she said, okay, yeah, that's fine, perfectly fine. So she sent it over to me. I went and got the part. Now I didn't have enough money to also get a mechanic, so I literally had to research this stuff. I went to YouTube University and I researched how to put this alternator in my car. And luckily for me, it was in a nice, easy spot. Now, I wouldn't say it was the easiest job, but it wasn't super hard either. But I ended up putting the alternator in myself. Got the car back up and running. Was able to go back to work and do what I needed to do and send the money back to my friend a couple days early. And so that was when I learned that emergency fund is definitely important, because we can't get so stuck on one area of financial literacy and trying to become a success without having the others. There has to be a balance. And so that's when I learned about the importance of that emergency fund. So from that point, yes, I did continue to still, put my money aside for my peer-to-peer lending, but I also started saving up that emergency fund to the point where now, like I said, if I have to take out something, I can borrow from myself and then I pay myself back. And I actually try to pay myself back with interest, because some problems are bigger than others, right? Luckily for me, it was just a little alternator issue. So it cost me, I think, about $200 something, maybe like $230, $240. And I was able to, quickly pay that back. So that would be my lesson to you guys. Make sure that you're having an equal balance, not having too much money in the savings, because savings really doesn't make much interest, if any at all. And then also not making sure you don't have too much money in your bills, because then that takes away from your investment money and your savings money, or even if you're paying off debts. Even if you're paying off debts, don't pay off your debts so fat to the point where everything else goes lacking because you're trying to pay off the debts, and now you can't pay your bill because you put this money on this debt, or you can't, you don't have an emergency fund because you put all your money on your student loans. So you have to have an equal balance. And that's one thing I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, or if you are not on YouTube, go over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Also hit the like button there. It all helps with the algorithm, whether you're on Facebook or whether you are on YouTube. But thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys in another